This is augforums.com Real Talk, an unfiltered, independent perspective on Acumatica Cloud ERP. My name is Tim Rodman, and I want to mention three things in this pre-recorded intro before we get started. First, thank you to our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Paya. Paya offers Acumatica users a suite of industry-leading payment orchestration tools. Far beyond native Acumatica payments, Paya enables EMV NFC terminals for counter-sale. They offer a frictionless customer portal through their click-to-pay solution, and they support most e-commerce platforms and point-of-sale solutions used with Acumatica, such as One Retail and AcuPOS. And best of all, omni-channel reconciliation is available for all their solutions. Our second sponsor is DataSelf. DataSelf Analytics is a revolutionary reporting solution that enables organizations to make the most informed decisions faster and easier than ever. It uniquely simplifies business intelligence, empowers anyone to build and access dashboards, and delivers critical business insight when and where you need it. Our third sponsor is Aldrich Web Solutions. Are you a distributor using Acumatica, yet struggling with an e-commerce fit? US-based Aldrich Web Solutions out of Marion, Illinois, has 2 decades of experience helping distributors find success online. Our team of experts built the integration, creating websites that work effortlessly with Acumatica. With our reputation for swift customer service and meticulous attention to detail, we are the perfect fit for distributors needing online solutions. Please take a minute to support this podcast by clicking each one of the sponsor banners located at augforums.com/sponsors. Our sponsors track clicks, and every click helps to support this podcast. The second thing I'd like to mention is that I'm always looking for victims. I mean guests. If you use Acumatica in any capacity, no matter how small, I'd love to talk with you. Check out augforums.com/podcast and click the link near the top of the page to learn more about being a guest on the podcast. Third and finally, I'd love to see you listed on my Rolodex. Check out augforums.com/Rolodex to find out who else is using Acumatica and read the instructions at the top to see how you can add yourself to the list. All right, that's it for the pre-recorded intro. Let's get started. Well, hello everyone. I'm live again, less than 24 hours since David Gross and I went live, even started going live yesterday. We ended up going for 2.5 hours. Had a great time, would love to do it again. But there was something that, there were a number of things yesterday that we couldn't figure out, and that's why we want to do it again. We know there's a lot more that could be covered, but there was one particular thing that was bugging me, so I played around with it last night and was able to figure it out. So this will be a much shorter live broadcast today, but I thought I'd just continue in the pattern of doing it in a live broadcast. So we're delivering it the same way, and I'll show this one thing. And I'm going to send the recording to David and Ryan, who all three of us were trying to figure it out yesterday. And then, they probably maybe even enhance it further. So with that, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Let's go like that. And I'll just recap real quick what the scenario was yesterday. We had done this scenario where you can enter a task. And then if you pick the category, now notice right here at this point down here, this is empty. If I save this, it then gets a value, 2 in this case. If I change the category to, let's say, normal, it's still 2. But if I save it, it's now 11. Now, this is not the best example. If you're because this 11 is pretty meaningless, but I'll show you real quick where that comes from. We look over here in the event and task categories. Here's where those categories get defined. And if we do an inspect element on these categories and drill into the data behind the scenes using the source data here, we can see here's those category IDs compared to the description. So normal is an 11. That's why we're seeing an 11. So not the best example here, but the whole idea was how do we trigger the updating of another field based off of a change of one field. We can use this technique on any screen with any field. So that's where we left it yesterday, but we didn't like it because we didn't like that you had to press save to get it to do something. What we really wanted is we wanted it to happen as soon as we change the category. Like right now, when I do low, I want that to update. So that's what I played with last night. So let's flip over to the customization projects. Now this one is already published. That's why we have that behavior on the save. And let's look at what we had done yesterday. So if I go into this customization project, we had modified the task screen and we'd done two things in that task screen. The first thing, we had created an event handler in this area. Let's open that up. We had just hit the plus to create a new one. We called it change category, and we told it that on a field change, specifically when the category field changes, and I just noticed this, looks like you could select multiple things. That's interesting. Haven't tried that yet. But in this case, when just the category field changes, we wanted to update the activity details, which was that big empty section on the bottom, with the category ID. And we got that by going into the pencil icon, doing fields and parameters, and selecting the category ID. Now the event handler by itself didn't do anything. So if we cancel this and we go in here, we had to add workflow. Now on the task screen, there was no default workflow. So we just did add workflow, selected default, created this default workflow, and then we did add a predefined state, and we selected, it's not available right now because we already did it, but we selected open tasks only. We could have done more, but we kept it simple, and that's why you see open over here. So now for open tasks, when the, over here on the task, when the status is open, this workflow will kick in. So the workflow kicks in, and then on this handlers tab, that's where we added our handler. So we just selected it. It's the only one available from the dropdown, and that's how we link the two things together. That was it. That's how we got the behavior where we can change the category, save, and have it update the area on the bottom. But we wanted it to happen live. So I did some tinkering. I think, you know, one of the great things about doing a live broadcast, this is not polished stuff here, right? If you want a real course, I actually would like to create a real official course on this low code, no code stuff, maybe at some point, but that would be a lot of work. And I know that because I built a course on generic inquiries and pivot tables, and it's a lot of work. I did transcripts before every lesson. I thought through how to make things flow. When I delivered the lessons, I would read from the transcripts and do the navigation on the screen. That way I could choose every word that I wanted to say carefully. And I was very thoughtful about what do we do in lesson 1? How does that connect to lesson 2, to lesson 3, etc. That took months to put together. On a live broadcast, I'm talking real fast, I'm clicking around. It's more high energy, and it's less concerned about your consuming it and just more concerned about getting it out there, knowing you could play the video slower and you're hearing me think a lot of the times, and that's how it was yesterday. But it's great, especially with someone like David on, because we get to bounce ideas off of each other, learn from each other, and there's a certain level of energy where it's like, oh, this is actually enjoyable. It's not work, but it's not a course. It's not an official. It's not the best learning mechanism. So, anyways, I bring all that up because it did, though, energize us. It wasn't work, and I think being on that for 2.5 hours sounds like a long time yesterday, but it was energizing, and it made me more like optimistic based on the things David had showed me that, hey, maybe there is a way to do this. So I was tinkering with it last night, and here's what I found. If you go into the screen up here and you expand and find the category field, let's see, where was that? Probably up here. Here it is. So these trees, as we talked about yesterday, David had some good insights on how these are connected to data classes and things like that. And I think that's why he spent a lot more time in this area than I have. And that's what made me think, maybe there's an answer here. So if you go into the category field, there's a lot of options. And you can even see it's not just what you see when you scroll up and down. You can expand these arrows here. And this is not great. I wish these were indented more, but you can barely see that if I collapse it, then expand it again, you can see that like actions text is slightly indented under grid properties. So it's underneath it. And even layout is now within grid properties. So grid properties, then into layout, then these are indented a little bit better, border mode. But there's this whole hierarchy of options, and there's a lot there. So there's a lot to experiment with. And David has learned a lot more in this area than I have, and he's done it just by experimenting. Try changing something, publish the project, try something else, publish the project. So that's what I did last night. I just kept tinkering, and I came up with something. This might not be the only way, but it works. So I'm good with it. All I had to do, and it's amazing once you figure it out, it's like, that's it. It's like a needle in a haystack. Once you find it, like this thing is super small change. It just took a while to find it. So all I had to do, and I wrote them down to make sure I got it right, is two things. So first, I had to have commit changes on for this to work. So I set this to true. And notice that when you change an option and when you click off the field, this override box gets checked. So this is nice because it's a quick way to scroll through and look at what options you've changed. And if you want to undo a change, you just uncheck the override and your change goes away. So this was one change. There's only two things we have to do. First is set commit changes to true. And then second, we have to go down here into this auto callback area, expand this, and scroll down. Let's see, did I miss it? Here it is, handler. So this is total tinkering and experimentation. I'm like, handler, there's the word handler over there. And this is just a free form field. So you have to type in the same handler, just give it the same name that we gave it in the event handler's name. So that was change category. I don't even remember. Was it category? We'll double check it. Change category. I click off and you see that override box gets checked. That's it. Just those two things. Now let's double check this. Let's go over to event handlers. Looks like I just called it change category. So we just make the names match. That's it. And then we publish. So let's give that a try. And another benefit of putting together an official course at some point is you don't have to sit through the publishes. You can do some video editing. Another thing about a live broadcast is I'm not going to do any editing on these. So sorry, you can scroll through on the recording and skip stuff. But the goal again is just to get it out there, because this stuff can be hard to discover, and doing just collecting ideas from other people helps a lot to learn together. All right, so that is done publishing. We'll go back to the task screen and refresh. And hopefully this works. This is live. We'll see what happened. Okay, so just those two changes. And right now we've got 11 down here. Now if I change the category, as soon as I change it, you can see down here, it worked. That updated to a 10. Of course, it'll still stick when I save it like it did before. So real simple change. Two things that I had to update there. And you can see I change it again and it's a 3 and it works. Now I will show one other thing here. I did start to think, how I don't really understand how it's working. But I started to think, it does kind of make sense that you have to go into this area because these options here are very much related to like live things that are happening with the field. It seems to me, this is my totally non-technical way of just reverse engineering and feeling like I know what's going on, maybe. The workflow engine seems more to be about states, which is when a save happens. I could be wrong on that. Well, maybe as we do more of these, we probably will learn more about it, and this might be wrong. But at this point in time, it seems that way to me. So the workflow engine being more based off of data that has changed, and this area being more about while you're working with things on the screen. And you can just kind of tell by a lot of these things, like this auto refresh, the callback, auto callback area. These are like behaviors that the field does itself before you press save. So it makes sense to me. And that's what I was thinking about last night and why I thought to try looking in here for something. I say all that because I then started to think, I want to make sure I'm doing the bare minimum that is needed to make this happen. And if the field itself is doing the change and it knows to call the handler and the handler is here, then maybe I don't need the workflow, right? So I did try this. Let's make sure my memory is correct. I tried deactivating the workflow because logically to me, it doesn't seem like it should be needed. Well, let's publish this and see what happens. And I made the comment yesterday, if we do more of these, I think, this is how you iterate. You just have to do the publish. It can take a while. And so that's where it's also nice to have someone else on, because you can be like baseball announcers where you just have to think of things to talk about while you have downtime. When it's just me, that's a little harder, but this will publish eventually. Okay, I think the validation takes the longest. The publish is quick. All right, so we're good. We'll go back and refresh. We had a 3 there. If we change the category, you can see that it did not update. And now even when we hit save, it doesn't update. Now that I expected because the workflow is what did that initially. So you do have to have that workflow piece. This does have to be activated. It's not just the field talking to the event handler. And so that's where even as I'm talking this through, I'm realizing somehow the workflow engine is needed for live changes. I just don't understand it completely. I don't know why. So to me, the field here is, it seems like it's talking directly to the event handler, but somehow the workflow engine is involved. Don't understand it yet, but that's my understanding at this point. The good news though is we have a way to do what we were looking to do yesterday, and I just showed it. So that's all I had. I'll just round off this. Where are we at now? We're less than 20 minutes, much shorter than the 2.5 hours yesterday. I'll just round this out with the augforums.com/live page. If you check that out, you will see if we do any future broadcasts, I'll send out email blasts, put it on LinkedIn, etc. When we do these broadcasts, they do broadcast out to LinkedIn, YouTube Live, and Twitter Live. I guess it's X Live now. You can see we don't have anything scheduled currently. I have, though, reached out to a well-known developer. I won't say his name just in case this doesn't happen, but he did respond and agreed to do it. So I think we'll get it on the calendar where he'll come on and show us something else that came up yesterday, which is how to, I think of it like a VLOOKUP when you're on a screen and you want a VLOOKUP to another data class that's not there. David showed us a way that I didn't know about to get some additional data classes if they're there, but you can't go out and grab anything you want. And so what I want to do on a future live broadcast is learn how to do that from this developer and do it without Visual Studio, do it completely within a customization project. And that technique, in theory, should also work for data classes that are from SQL views. And that's important to me, being a low-code, no-code person, because I don't write much C# at all. I can Google and find some things, but I'm not a developer. I don't touch Visual Studio, but I could use a SQL view to make whatever query I want. And if I had a way to VLOOKUP to that on a screen, I could bring in any data that I want to a screen. So anyways, that's an idea for a future broadcast, but you will see by the time you look at this, you'll see the broadcast that I'm doing right now listed here on June 9th. But then this is the 2.5-hour one that we did yesterday. If you click on one of these, I just picked one of the live broadcast destinations. I picked the YouTube Live, and you can see there's the 2.5-hour recording from yesterday. What's also nice about these live broadcasts is you get the recording automatically at the same link. So like if you're watching it live, as soon as it's done, the recording's just there. We don't have to do any work to do that. So, if you watch this on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, while you're watching it live, just know that URL that you're watching, in this case right here, it's going to be the same URL for the recording. You can see there's also a chat. That's the main benefit to attending live, but we know that most people will just watch the recordings. So you can have some interactions, and yeah, that's about it. So those live links are also the recording links, but then I'm just collecting them all in one place here. And you can see I've done these in the past, but it's been almost a couple of years. And right now, as I'm kind of reviving the live idea, I'm just focused on low code, no code stuff, because I think that live stuff is a good way to learn things. When I did these Excel talks with Gabrielle, I wanted to learn more about how dynamic arrays were working in Excel and how the Lambda functions were working. And we covered all that stuff in these Excel talks. And then before that, you can go back and see other things that we've done. So if I scroll all the way to the bottom, one last thing I want to show you is that you do have a comment section here. And you can see I put one comment. We'd love to hear your ideas for future live broadcasts focused in this low code, no code area. So one thing that David and I talked about yesterday is, hey, we had a great time doing this for 2.5 hours. Maybe we'll do it a little shorter next time, but we did it for 2.5 hours because we were having a good time. But we need the more feedback we get, like, hey, we'd like to know how to do this or that. It gives us ideas, and that keeps it fun and keeps it going. So this comment section on the bottom of the augforums.com/live page, please go here and just share your thoughts. It doesn't even have to be an idea for the future. It could just be any type of feedback. And that really helps the energy to keep David and I going on this and bringing other people in as well to, again, learn this low code, no code area of Acumatica together, compare notes, and get good at it so we can use these really powerful tools in the real world at Acumatica customers. Okay, so Boy, I almost went half an hour, much longer, of course, than I thought I would. But that's it. That's all I had, rounding out that thing that I wanted to show you. And we'll catch you next time. All right. Well, that's it for now. We'll catch you on the next episode of ogforums.com Real Talk. Thanks for listening, and take care.